How's it going, everyone? I'm VenomousStare. I'm back with Protoss versus Zerg at a very high level. Two GM North American players are going to face off. In the bottom left, playing dark purple, King Tesla, formerly and henceforth referred to as Roberto, because he used to play under the ID Rob. In the top right, we have a guy that I have met in real life, a Zerg player who usually favors Roach Hydra styles, off of lower econ than most players, I would say. It's Warren, a Team Psystorm player. So what is Rob doing? Well, he's definitely not doing his infamous proxy gateway opener because he made his first pylon in front of his natural. So looks like he's going for a gateway opener. Both players are going for a very early worker scout. This is a good move by Warren to send this early drone out versus Rob. He is known for his proxy play and his aggressive play. So players like that, you want to scout frequently and keep tabs on. Warren is also going to use this drone to try to delay the natural. Note that Warren's hatchery is already down. He's elected to go hatchery first, the economic Zerg opener, as opposed to a pool first. Like, what you see here is pretty much the best thing a Zerg can do short of making 3 hatcheries before pool, which is they make their first hatch at 17 supply, make a drone, then they take their gas, as you see Warren having a little bit of trouble here. They take their gas, and then they take their pool, although their pool usually isn't delayed like that. Rob did a good job of harassing with this probe. And the reason you see this is because for Zerg it will time out where this hatchery finishes right about, it'll finish, and then the spawning pool will finish right when you have 100 gas, and right when the spawning pool finishes you will have 400 minerals and about 100 gas, so you can start your ling speed, which costs 100, and double queen, which are 150 each, so a total of 300. And we see that your minerals are a little bit short, so usually you have to decide, but the spawning pool isn't even done because Rob delayed it with this probe harass. Back in Camp Rob, we have a cyber core starting to help complete the wall in. Now, I know a lot of newbie players watch my videos, so it is worth noting that whenever you play Protoss versus Zerg, you need to wall off your natural ramp. Now, not a complete wall in, but a wall in that leaves one little choke for a zealot to be placed and put on hold position. That is an extremely, extremely newbie tip, but I like to throw those in because, honestly, you never know who's watching. You might have played 3,000 ladder games, but a guy who might have played 50 could be watching and could be losing to mass lings, so I like to throw those tips out. Rob is going for a Stargate. Now note the placement, it's in a very good spot at the corner of his base as opposed to like in his wall in out here. Or a very predictable spot I say would be like right here. Back in the day, Protoss players would hide most of their tech right here on Daybreak. If you don't know, Daybreak is a retro map. This map was played significantly in Wings of Liberty. Warren is going for +1 on his Zerglings, +1 melee attack. The fact that he only has 1 gas and has pulled off of it is indicative of the fact that he wants to go for this drone, ling, queen, heavy style. As you see him pumping 7 drones away right now. So what is this style, this queen ling drone you're talking about? Well, essentially, Zergs have been doing this thing versus Protoss where they only take 1 gas geyser for a very long time. Now this is abnormal because obviously you need a lot of gas to do it, pretty much anything, to tech up, to make any units but lings, drones, and queens. So why does Zerg do this? Well, if they delay their gas, then that means that they're getting all of their drones that are mining to gather minerals, which means they have a ton of minerals and can continue to spike forward and use that to produce more drones and gain a crushing lead. Double adept pressure coming out here for Roberto, but it's going to be snuffed out. It's actually 3 adepts, but the 3 adepts are going to die. But it was a bit of a diversion for this Oracle, which is going to come in and run right smack dab into a spore. And now Warren does lose that one inevitable drone, but he defends both harasses very well. Now earlier I said this was a good spot for a Stargate. It's a good spot in the sense that it's in the corner of your base. Warren's going to run in with some lings here and see what he can accomplish. He's actually going to get into the front door. Roberto fires up an overcharge. Warren has about 6 Lings left. He's going to run into the main of Rob, but Rob is going to pull workers and actually do a decent job defending those Lings, and those Lings are going to run in and try to kill the pylon, and suddenly Rob doesn't have overcharge. He's going to get saggy, sad buildings here and have to retreat a skill ray to try to defend. The skill ray is idle as King Tesla, aka Rob, micros his probes there very well and doesn't lose a whole lot. As I say that, he loses a probe, 2 probes, but for that many Lings getting in that early, sometimes that can just be a nightmare scenario where one thing leads to another and the Zerg just kills you pretty much based on that one mistake. So what I was saying is this Stargate is in a decent location in a sense because it's not here or here where most people would anticipate it, but perhaps it would be better placed like here, because you see these little square white things, they're all over the map. There's one here, one here. These are high grounds, okay? Basically this means that Zerg can park overlords up here like we see from Warren, and Zerg has excellent vision around the map. As King Tesla flew an Oracle in there and got 3 kills. So essentially what that means is whenever you see these blue things, these are little high grounds for overlords to hide on. So right now, Warren perhaps caught a glimpse of that. If he had an overlord here, he would definitely see it. But as Protoss and Terran, you have to be wary of these little high grounds because you could be getting spied on by overlords. So Adept Rush is coming into the 3rd base, and Warren's just going to say, oh, crap, I don't have any units. King Tesla's going to continue to pressure forward here with these Adepts. Warren doesn't have any units at home. All of his Lings were across the map defending. And suddenly, King Tesla has a ton of Adepts in the natural of Warren. Now he's going to shade forward again, but he's in a nice little hidey hole, using the Spore as cover. And he's going to run into the 3rd and do more damage. Tesla has killed double-digit workers at this point, but more importantly, I would say, King Tesla has really slowed down his opponent Warren when it matters. Warren really wants to get going here with drones. He wants to surge ahead, maybe take a 4th, have about 65 workers and really get cooking. But if we go to income, he has 66 workers, but they're kind of, if we look at income, he's just getting blown out of the water numbers-wise. Not harvesters-wise, but numbers-wise. And that's because even though Warren did a good job defending his drones micro-wise, the fact that he was always running them around meant that he wasn't able to be mining at the time. And we see that Rob mismicroed a bit there, but he's taken his 3rd. He's trying to phase into the natural as he runs away. But what do we see from Rob at home? This is full-blown sky toss. 3 Stargates dutifully pumping away carriers. Now what does Warren see? He does see this fleet beacon. So Warren knows. Warren does know 100% that it is carriers. This fleet beacon is not indicative of anything else but carriers, especially in this meta. There is an extremely rare build that a Korean Protoss named Myunsik used to do, where he would get 2 Stargates, get +1, make Mass Phoenix, and it was actually a counter to Hydra, because Hydras do bonus damage, or excuse me, Phoenix do bonus damage to light units, but that build did not include a fleet beacon. So if you see a very early fleet beacon, it's carriers, and that's because you have to have a fleet beacon to make carriers. And carriers are very powerful. They recently got a buff in the last patch, making it where interceptors cost next to nothing. And quite honestly, they've become a mainstay of Zerg versus Protoss. And Warren is going to try to run in here to this 3rd, but lots of pylons are already down for Tesla. If he brings his mothership core over, he'll have lots of overcharges. Notice he has this overcharge queued up, and he gets it down. So this is a testy moment for Warren. He doesn't have a lot of economy. He's trying to pump away Hydras, but he doesn't have the creep side or economy. He needs to adequately deal with Rob. He's going to try to poke and prod, but look at this. These Adepts do bonus damage to light units. They provide just enough meat shield to make it where Warren can't adequately dive in. And this is one of the key things you should note when dealing with mass Protoss air, is once you fall behind initially and lose your first few Hydra, the Protoss will continue to build up their carriers, and assuming they don't screw up their macro, you're going to just be crushed, because the Protoss army will outscale your army, and once you become ahead as Protoss, and you continue to make carriers, you will reach a critical mass where Zerg will have a very hard time dealing with it, especially with what Warren is trying to do, which is a layer-based, aggressive, mid-game Hydra focus push. And many Zergs try to do this because they don't want to get caught in the late game versus High Templar carrier death armies. And King Tesla might lose a carrier here, and here we go. Warren's going to try. He snipes one carrier. Warren surging forward here, taking a disgusting amount of damage from these B machines, aka the carriers, and he's virtually going to get kited around and lose every single one of his Hydras, and he's just going to GG, because if we look, he does not have his fourth droned up at all. His Protoss opponent, Roberto, is taking his fourth, so Warren, plain and simple, got harassed a little bit in the mid-game and didn't have that critical economy that he really needed to deal with that carrier play of Rob. And Rob had some nice micro there, keeping his carriers alive, warping in just enough warp gate units to keep his carriers alive, not relying on pure cannons like in numbnuts. So if you enjoyed, subscribe for more.